last one! Here comes another one! Booster flares! Now, now, now! Splitting the throttles? Coming around! To be told. You got him, man, you got him! Taking a shot! What the? Holy shit! What the fuck was that?
High above in the sky, rules of combat collapse when missiles travel faster than sound, radar tries to see the invisible, and the nation that blinks first loses the aerial battle. And right now, two superpowers are fighting a war up there that most people on the ground have no idea is happening. Welcome to Infomundo. Today we are answering one of the most consequential questions of the 21st century. Who rules the skies? The United States or China in 2026? This is the rivalry that will define who owns the future. So sit tight. Let's go. This isn't just a story about war aircraft. It's a story about stolen blueprints and broken monopolies. A nation that spent 30 years building an invisible wall in the sky, and another that spent 30 years figuring out how to tear it down. From the tarmac of Lockheed Martin to the secret hangars of Chengdu, from the deck of a nuclear carrier to the server rooms of a cyber war. To understand this rivalry, you have to understand what the F-22 Raptor actually is. Not just a plane, but a declaration of dominance so total it rewrote the rules of aerial warfare. The F-22 first flew in September 1997. By the time it entered active service in December 2005, it carried technology so advanced that Congress passed a law, the Obey Amendment, preventing its sale to any foreign nation, including allies. If no one else can have it, no one else can beat it. The Raptor's secret is three things that had never existed together in one aircraft. Supercruise capability, meaning it flies supersonic without burning afterburners. Super maneuverability, meaning it defies the laws of physics at extreme angles of attack. And low observable stealth, meaning its radar cross-section is roughly equivalent to a steel marble. Think about that, a 65,000-pound aircraft that looks, to radar, like a marble. For nearly 2 decades, that combination meant the United States Air Force owned the skies. The first look, first kill doctrine became real. You died before you ever knew you were being hunted. But here is the problem with a monopoly on power. It creates a hunger in those left in the dark. From the secretive hangars of the Chengdu Aircraft Corporation, something new was taking shape. Long, angular, jagged, a titanium challenger to 30 years of American air supremacy. China called it the J-20 Mighty Dragon. And with its arrival, the wall began to crack. But before China could build a rival, it needed to understand the secret. And to get the secret, they didn't look to the sky. They looked to the internet. It began not with a missile launch, but with a mouse click. In 2008, a silent breach occurred inside the networks of American defense contractors. It wasn't a smash and grab, it was a surgical extraction, patient, methodical, and devastatingly effective. When US intelligence traced the intrusion, the digital fingerprints led to a 51-year-old Chinese national and Canadian resident named Su Bin, the head of a small aviation company called Load Technology. Su Bin didn't hack the networks himself. He coordinated. He directed 2 PLA-connected co-conspirators inside China to penetrate the secured servers of American aerospace giants, map the directories, and extract the files he circled. Su would translate them into Chinese and pass them up the chain. By 2009, officials confirmed that multiple terabytes of data related to the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter had been compromised. Radar design, engine cooling, exhaust treatments, stealth surface configurations. Su Bin also directed the theft of F-22 Raptor and C-17 Globemaster data. In total, over 630,000 documents from Boeing alone. In a 2011 email entered as evidence, he bragged that the stolen data would allow China to rapidly catch up with the US military aviation. He was arrested in Canada in June 2014, pleaded guilty on March 23, 2016, and was sentenced to 46 months in prison. It was the first successful prosecution of Chinese cyber espionage targeting American defense contractors. By then, the damage was already done. This theft was part of a broader campaign by US officials codenamed Byzantine Hades, a systematic effort to vacuum American military technology across dozens of programs, including space systems, submarine designs, and missile guidance technology. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Many of the documents weren't even fully classified, but in aggregate, they allowed Chinese engineers to reverse engineer components that would otherwise have taken a decade and billions of dollars to develop. The J-20 and the FC-31, later redesignated the J-35, emerged in the years following, sporting nose profiles, sensor layouts, and weapons bay configurations that drew immediate comparisons to their American counterparts. Some analysts argue the similarities are inevitable physics. But the timeline of J-20 design changes, tracked against the dates of the breaches, tells a different story. Blueprints can be stolen, but the heart of a fighter, the engine, the tactics, the instinct of a combat pilot, cannot be downloaded. So the question wasn't, did China copy the shape? It was, can they win a fight with it? In March 2022, the hypothetical became history. Over the disputed skies of the East China Sea, American F-35 Lightning IIs encountered Chinese J-20 Mighty Dragons, the first confirmed face-to-face meeting of fifth-generation stealth fighters from rival superpowers. No missiles were fired, no alarms triggered, just two invisible ghosts sizing each other up in the electromagnetic mist. General Kenneth Wilsbach, commander of U.S. Pacific Air Forces, later remarked that the Americans were relatively impressed with the command and control the Chinese displayed. That sentence alone should tell you how much the world has changed. But this encounter raised a $100 trillion question. How does the J-20 stack up against the reigning king of the skies, the F-22 Raptor? These aircraft represent two entirely different theories of war. The F-22 is a scalpel, optimized for extreme agility, the merge, and the kill shot at close range. Its twin Pratt & Whitney F-119 engines produce over 70,000 pounds of combined thrust, allowing it to supercruise at Mach 1.5 and pull maneuvers that defy physics. It remains the most lethal air superiority fighter ever built. The J-20 Mighty Dragon, by contrast, is a sledgehammer. At over 20 meters long, it isn't built to outrun a Raptor in a dogfight. It is a long-range assassin. Its mission? Carry the PL-15 missile, with a range exceeding 200 kilometers, deep into enemy territory to snipe the brains of the American fleet, the tankers and radar planes that keep the F-22s and F-35s in the fight. For years, China's critical weakness was its engine. The J-20 originally relied on Russian-supplied AL-31s, reliable but underpowered. That gap is closing. China's indigenous WS-15 engine is now entering mass service, finally giving the Mighty Dragon the supercruise capability and raw speed it was always meant to have. But in modern war, it's not how you fight, it's how many you bring. The PLAAF is estimated to have over 250 J-20s in service as of 2025, and their factories are still humming. The F-22 program, meanwhile, was capped at just 187 aircraft back in 2009, a decision many analysts now call the most consequential military miscalculation in modern history. Numbers matter, location matters, and in the Pacific, the ghost in the radar is no longer just American. For over 70 years, the United States Navy ruled the world's oceans because it ruled the skies above them. A floating fortress that could project 300 miles of no-fly zone to any coastline on Earth within days. That era is not over, but it is no longer uncontested. China launched its third aircraft carrier, the Fujian, in June 2022. What makes it different from China's first two isn't just size, it's the catapult. The Fujian carries an electromagnetic launch system, known as EMALS, the same cutting-edge technology found on America's most advanced carrier, the USS Gerald R. China became only the second nation in history to develop it domestically. This matters because a catapult determines what your jet can actually do off the deck. China's earlier ski-jump carriers forced pilots to launch at reduced fuel and weapons loads, limiting combat radius and strike capability. With EMALS, the J-35, China's twin-engine stealth carrier fighter equipped with AESA radar and internal weapons bays, launches at full combat weight. That transforms China's carrier air wing from a defensive patrol force into a genuine long-range strike capability. The scale of China's ambition is in the timeline. Liaoning commissioned in 2012, Shandong in 2019, Fujian in 2022. 3 carriers in 10 years. The United States, for context, is still working on its 3rd Ford-class carrier. This race isn't just about who has the better jet. It's about who has the bigger fleet to launch them from. But before we explain the 6th generation of these aircraft, just a quick reminder, if you're liking this video so far, you'll love what else we've built here on Infomundo. Check out the channel for more deep dives and breakdowns of your favorite topics. Now, imagine a fighter that isn't just a plane, a command center, a pilot in a cockpit, not pulling a trigger, but conducting an orchestra of AI-driven drones that do the killing while the human stays hidden 50 miles away, untouchable, watching through 1,000 mechanical eyes. This is the 6th generation, and it is the new finish line. The United States Air Force's Next Generation Air Dominance (NGAD) program is a classified multi-billion-dollar effort to replace the F-22 with something that has never existed before, a family of systems where manned and unmanned platforms operate as a single networked entity. The concept aircraft is tailless, reducing radar signature even further, and designed to command collaborative combat aircraft, drones, that swarm alongside it, absorbing risk and overwhelming adversary defenses. In September 2020, Air Force Acquisition Chief Dr. Will Roper confirmed that a full-scale prototype had already flown. "We've already built and flown a full-scale flight demonstrator in the real world," Roper said, "and we broke records in doing it." The details remain classified, but the fact of it is real. And yet, America is no longer alone on this frontier. On December 26, 2024, a date chosen to coincide with Mao Zedong's birthday, China made a declaration that reverberated through every defense ministry on Earth. In a series of videos that exploded across Chinese social media, 2 prototype aircraft were spotted conducting test flights, one from Chengdu, one from Shenyang. Tailless, massive, and unlike anything previously disclosed. Defense analysts scrambled to process what they were seeing. The aircraft, tentatively designated the J-36 and J-50, were subsequently confirmed in a U.S. Department of Defense report as China's 6th generation fighter prototypes. What they were seeing was a message. China is no longer chasing the United States. It is racing alongside it. And in the chronology of 6th generation flight testing, it has moved first. The new battlefield is not just about speed or stealth. It's about data, the ability to process, share, and act on information faster than any human can think. China calls this intelligentized warfare. The US calls it multi-domain operations. Both mean the same thing. The pilot in the cockpit is becoming the most vulnerable part of the system. The future belongs to the machine that thinks the fastest and the nation that programs it best. Maybe your first memory of a fighter jet was a roar you felt in your chest before you ever heard it, a silver streak across a blue sky, a sound like the future arriving early. That is the quiet, relentless truth of aerial rivalry. Dominance is never a destination. It is a race that never ends. The United States spent 30 years building the invisible wall. China spent 30 years, and a great deal of other people's data, learning how to climb it. And now, for the first time in a generation, the skies above the Pacific are genuinely, dangerously contested. The Raptor and the Dragon, the Ford and the Fujian, the human pilot and the AI wingman. Each chapter of this story has raised the stakes higher than the last, and the final chapter, being written right now in secret labs and classified hangars, may not have a human author at all. The race for the sky began with stolen blueprints and ends with artificial minds. Which flag dominates the clouds in 2050? That answer is still being built. One engine test, one algorithm, one catapult launch at a time. And there you go, the high-stakes duel between the United States and China for the future of the sky in 2026. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Infomundo. If you're curious about the tiny toys that built a massive rivalry, you definitely need to check out our video on Matchbox versus Hot Wheels on the channel, and let us know in the comments what we should dive into next.